Hello, this is Elaine Sugar, award-winning children's program facilitator and overall supporter of children's dreams. Welcome to the Empower Teen Self-Esteem podcast. We bring you ideas and resources that help teens shine and help ease parents' minds. Hello, this is Elaine Sugar. Welcome to the Empower Teen Self-Esteem podcast. I am really looking forward to introducing you all to Mary Kurek. Wait until you hear about her impactful, powerful background and the people that she works with every day. So we have something definitely for the parents and the teens today because Mary is impacting both adult and teens' lives. So I am going to welcome her, have her tell us a little bit about herself and the companies that she's running right now, which is Frontrunners Innovate and Frontrunners League. She'll tell you about both of those and what she's doing to impact the lives of adults and teens. So welcome, my friend Mary.
Well, thank you very much, Elaine. I appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I think my story begins under the umbrella of Frontrunners Development, Inc. and the Frontrunners League and Frontrunners Innovate come up underneath that. So we are part media platform and part community that kind of collaborates with the media platform. So what we're all about is impact. And we like to say that we like to help the world's problem solvers feel supported and connected, and the way that we do that is through visibility via the platform, which means that we do what you're doing. Actually, we do the interviews and we do some content production there, and then the other part is through business development with the league, which is our community. So business development is introductions. So we introduce people we make introductions between people who are in our community, our league, and even pulling from outside in other networks that we partner with to make those connections. And the idea is to help those problem solvers of the world get further with their own impact. If they win, we win. Awesome. Everybody wins. So that's our theory.
Excellent. I love that. Without divulging anything that would be considered proprietary or secret, can you give an example of when you're able to bring two groups, organizations together to accomplish something that they might not have otherwise been able to accomplish without, being brought together in unity?
Well, a couple of them, I guess. Most recently, I know everybody, as we're sitting, it is the 4th of May. And in the last week or two, we've all been hearing about how bad things are in India. With COVID. And so one of my partnering, agencies, Living, Learning, and Working in Inc. and I work together, have been working together since the pandemic started on helping to get PPEs in the right places with the right price tag and no funny business and no gouging or any of that, and keeping everything above board and ethical. And so, we work with just the people that we know and we trust, that kind of thing. So what had happened during the pandemic early on is we created, by just making connections within our own networks, we built up a business development team that would help us source out and get things to the right place and get the right prices on everything, because there's a lot of moving parts to getting a deal going on and getting it to the right place. Literally, the United States had nothing here. We had to get it out there and bring it here, or get it out there and send it to somewhere else. And that's where we are with India right now. Is we got calls from several of our members that were saying help, 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 that were involved either in India, saying that there were people dying in the streets and the bodies are left in the streets, and there's kids running around without parents. And then we got one of our other members who said that he got letters, and he actually showed me the letters from pastors, because he works in ministry work with orphanages in India. And he had gotten letters from some pastors that were just begging for help. Just please help us somehow, anyway that you can. And so we took that information and went to our biz dev team that we had started back during the pandemic and started connecting dots. And so we are the facilitators. We're not the trading arm. So we don't accept the money or dole it out or whatever. We just make the connections between the right, suppliers and the ones that want to buy. And so right now that's happening between two of our league members, two different ones who'd never met each other before. We put them together on WhatsApp and they just started talking, and it looks like a third party's coming in that is somebody that my partner knows very well. So it looks like we may be able to get some equipment moved that way. But so that's one. I guess another one would be one that's and this is the funny thing about a diverse network. You never know when it's going to come into play. So I always tell people, don't think linear in your own space. So if you're in energy, don't just think energy. If you're in education, don't just think education,
Yeah, but, before you go on to the other example, so hopefully we have parents and teens listening together. And I just want to pause for a minute, because when we are going through challenges at school, challenges at home, challenges at work, that thing is really impacting us. And sometimes it can seem like the biggest deal in the world, especially if we're upset, we're not agreeing with our parents, our friends, members of the family. But what Mary is describing in India is life and death. So it helps you sometimes when you're really upset about something and you're lashing out or getting frustrated. It helps to just realize that even though things may not be going your way, you're still fortunate. So what she's talking about there are two people who came together because there are people sick and who are literally dying in India. And there were people, doctors, nurses, volunteers trying to help the people, but they literally don't even have enough masks or gowns to wear to keep themselves safe when they're trying to help these people who desperately need it. So I just want to make sure we pause there and recognize, so that you can think about those types of things when you run into these situations. And even for me as an adult, I may think that the biggest deal in the world is I'm frustrated right now because I was supposed to be, through my oil change an hour ago, and I have a meeting that I wanted to get to. It just helps us all, adults, teens, everybody. It really puts it in perspective. So you see people sick and you imagine somebody has gone to nursing school or spent all the years in college to be a doctor, and now they are there and they want to help, but they don't have the equipment to put on themselves to make themselves safe. So I just want to pause. That is fantastic. So what Mary and her company were able to do is connect people. Somebody has what this person needs in India. This person in India has a need, but they don't know each other. So Mary is able to connect them. And now they're literally helping to save people's lives. So I just want to make sure we acknowledge the magnitude of the work that's being done there. So thank you, Mary, and everyone on your team. That's not something, to take lightly. That's some powerful work. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And, honestly, I kind of feel like that's what we're all, here for. I mean, we're all human beings. And so we're all on this big rock / slushy water, ball, and,
Right.
and ball of dirt, if you will. And it can't think and it can't connect people, but we have to do that. We live on it. So we have to take care of it. We have to take care of each other while we're on it. So I really think that is what we're supposed to do. And the best way you can do that is to create those bridges with people all around you and to think globally when you do think about connections. One of the coolest things that's happened in the last year is a connection, and it was really funny. It was a very sort of spontaneous introduction that I made between a woman who is in Texas and owns a Women Who Do Wonders, which is, women who are doing big, powerful things, organization and media platform. And she was looking for people to interview. Okay, I do the same thing. I'm looking around, I'll check around, but she and I met on LinkedIn. And the first person that came to my mind is somebody who sits on my advisory board, who at the time was living in Scotland. Okay, and she was Mrs. Aberdeen or whatever, Mrs. Scotland. at a period of time. And while she was living over there, she did a lot of fundraising activities. The first big fundraiser she did was with her husband to raise money for Prince Harry's foundation, that was a mental health foundation called Heads Together. And so she put together a large, fundraising effort there, and very successful. So I introduced the woman in Texas to the woman in Scotland. Okay. And lo and behold, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, they not only met each other, and woman in Texas interviewed her for her media platform, they started talking, became good friends. From the good friendships became a partnership. And so now they're partnered, they're legitimately, legally business partners. And the woman from Scotland has moved from Scotland and moved her family to Los Angeles area. So she's in California now. And she is in charge of the nonprofit that has begun from the woman in Texas, her efforts. And she's in charge of fundraising. So I'm like, and here's the kicker of all that. They both realized that they may actually have family in common after they talked a little bit. The woman from Texas said, I'm actually from Canada originally, and I have relatives in Scotland. And they realized there was a maiden name between them that is the same. And so,
it's a small world, right?
It is.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you are so you are doing great things that are impacting adults. But tell us about some of the work you do with teens, and some of the resources that you make available.
Well, that's one of my favorite things to talk about. I co-founded 2 youth leadership programs in my past locally. And one of them, the first one, was considered a model for the state when the governor came down and visited the program. And it was run out of the Chamber of Commerce. And it was a junior version of an adult leadership program that had been operating there successfully. So it started with a team building exercise that was like climbing what they call an alpine tower, which is a 60-foot tower that you literally mountain climb basically. And it creates that. I know, it's scary. I've done it halfway. I didn't get all the way. I got halfway.
Well, you know what? Give yourself credit for that, because let me tell you,
I do.
I would rather listen to you talk about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then so after the big team building exercise, about an 8-month leadership program. So we took that model and took it to the next county over and tied it up with sports. And so young athletes, high school athletes, the program was, for high school sophomores and juniors. We felt like freshmen were just trying to get their feet on the ground, and seniors they were on their way out. So we needed that section in the middle. And C+ average kids. We weren't looking for for those that are already, leaders and, the A+ kids. And we didn't want, the ones that are maybe at risk because they're already probably getting resources. The kids that didn't get the resources are the ones in the middle, or the average kid. I was that, so I know.
Okay.
But so what we've done, it's always been in my head. That second program, I was co-founder on it. I'm still sitting on that board 24 years later. And the person who's running it now is one of our graduates, who is the daughter of my co-founder. And so she sits on it. 2 more graduates are sitting on the board. That is what you hope for when you do a program like this, is you hope to train, send them out on their way, have them come back, and then help you run and sustain the program from there forward.
So about how old were they? I'm sorry, about how old were they when they started your program?
Sophomores and juniors. Yeah.
Sophomores and juniors.
Yeah, they could only go through at one time. So they graduated at the end. Several of them asked if they could do it again because it was fun. We took them on police ride-alongs. We did mock, city council meetings where they took on the roles of mayor and city council. And we did a lot of fun things with them. So I'm very much into experiential stuff. We took them to Raleigh, North Carolina, and they sat in with the governor's wife and had lemonade and talked to her. We did a Broadway play. We went to a college campus, met Dean Smith at the Dean Dome, the winningest ACC basketball coach. He's passed now, but walked in when all the players were walking around. And so we did some really, really cool things to kind of inspire them and help them understand what was out there in the world that they maybe not had experienced before. So take that now to a global level. And what I'm doing now with my business partner in Nigeria, there's a reason why he's in Nigeria and I picked him to kind of work with. is that we want to keep it global, and there's a lot of need out there for, girls particularly in these countries who don't really value the female, gender, and that they're losing out on education and other privileges that are kind of, set aside for the male population. So what we've done is put together Daughters Global, and it was kind of loosely based on a World Hope Youth Mentors program we piloted about 2 or 3 years ago. And so we took the best parts of that and kind of moved it forward, but we really didn't do this intentionally. What happened is we started having parents send and introduce their teenage daughters to us. And that was the weirdest thing. And it came through our platform, the frontrunnersinnovate.com, where parents were seeing some of the content, realizing we're very humanitarian in what we're trying to accomplish. And maybe they had a daughter, who was interested in that kind of thing and really wanted their daughters to develop some self-esteem and, feel empowered to move forward. So it's take that one time that the father introduced his 14-year, at that time 13-year-old daughter to us, who was going to take over that country someday, I'm sure. She's in Tanzania, he was in Zambia, and spoke English perfect. She wanted to be a public speaker, and you take that in 3 months' time, we had her speaking on a panel right next to ambassadors, other diplomats, and traditional royalty across the world. She blew them away.
That is fantastic. I don't even know her, but I'm proud of her.
Yeah, we are too. We're coaching her. We moved her into a platform on my platform. So she was doing a blog out there and a YouTube. We moved her into
Look at her.
So she's just too young to be out there on her own, we felt like.
Right.
So we moved her there, and she's been interviewing people. And by doing that, she's gathering people in her network, because it gives her a reason to go out and say, hey, I'd like to interview you. So she's collected several women leaders in Tanzania that she can go back to now, because they she's interviewed them, and so they got to know each other. So they're part of her network. So she's been able to do that. And the most recent interview is when she interviewed the doctor that saved her life when she was 9 days old. She had a congenital heart defect, and she went back and got the surgeon and interviewed her on her media platform. So we're working with her. She is about to open a summit coming up in June, I believe. And she's co-producing a global poetry book that we're putting together as a gift for the United Nations right now. So we put that girl to use. And she's not the only one. We have several others that now have been introduced to us by their parents. I was on a call this morning with one, and just, they don't all have to have one step already into, leadership. We have a couple of them that are struggling a little bit, trying to make some decisions about their career and what they're interested in.
Which is normal at that age.
Yeah, it totally is normal.
Totally normal not to have it all figured out.
Yeah, what I love is when they're shy on the calls, when we talk to them with their parents, and then when you get them by themselves, they just like they're all open.
They can relax there, right?
They can relax
about being corrected.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that's very painful stuff there. And I would just say to the teenagers, when you hear about the different things that Mary is mentioning that these teenagers have been able to do with support through her organization, think about the things that you would like to do. And even if you change your mind later, but just think about, when I grow up, what would I like to do? And then look to see if there's ways in your school or in your community that you can get some experience with that. She mentioned taking children to the, to the governor's home and to police ride-alongs and all these different experiences that can sometimes help you figure out if you really want to do something or not. So I just think there are different opportunities out there. You don't have to have it all figured out. You go to experience to help you figure it out. So I think that's awesome. And I think as much as you can participate in activities and things that give you an opportunity to go different places and do different things, as long as it's safe, then I think it's fantastic. So that's great that your organization is offering those experiences. And by the way, how many adults would be terrified to speak in front of the United Nations? How many
I
adults
was once upon a time.
how many adults are terrified to stand up and speak in a room with
I know,
even 10 or 15
I
people?
know,
So
I know.
that is phenomenal. That's
It is.
phenomenal.
And honestly, the little girl that I was talking to earlier, she's about to turn 16 years old. She's doing something I had never heard of. It's called spoken word art. And it is
Okay.
basically taking your poems and sort of acting them out, or at least projecting them out in presentation style in person in events. And she's done it often enough now that now she's been asked to do it in larger groups. And she said the first time she had to speak in front of like 300 people, she, was just like terrified, just
Uh-huh.
terrified.
But
So,
that
but you
is
get over it.
that's something to be proud of. They
Yeah.
they are doing wonderful things, and I don't know them, like I said, but I'm proud of them. So you see
Me
this
too.
interview, I'm proud of you. This is fantastic.
There we go.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you are doing work, and we refer to it as social impact work. So if we have some teens who are listening who may not be totally familiar with that.
I
One of
wasn't
the things
either.
I want to, yeah, yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and I'll just preface this for a minute. I was speaking with someone the other day, and I told him, I said, you know what? Some of us older people, our grandparents and parents lived through the Depression. So
Mhm.
therefore, we might have had this upbringing, like you have to work, you have to get a job, you have to stay there, make sure you pay your bills, this is the way. Well, a lot of younger people that are coming along now, their parents were not, products of the Depression, and neither were their parents. They are much more conscious now of recycling and the earth and all of these social impact issues, diversity, accepting people. So
Mhm.
I think we as a society have to get ready and be prepared for the fact that they're going to judge how we handle social issues. So I just wanted you to talk for a minute about how teens can do something about the types of issues that are happening socially that they have concern about, and then definitely tell us how we can get in touch with you, all of the wonderful services you are offering. Make sure everyone knows exactly how to find you. So I will turn
Okay.
it over to you.
All righty. I think the first thing for young people to understand, and this is really hard because most of them are very sort of glued into the sort of boundaries that are around their city or their county or whatever, is to acknowledge and accept that you are a global citizen. You are a citizen of the world. And so the sooner you get that, especially in this day and time, you can't look at this pandemic and say, oh, that just happened to us here. It didn't. It was a problem across the world, still is a problem, is going to be for a little while. So once you grasp that it's a global world, then that makes a difference to you personally and your paradigms, your belief systems, and it makes sense to you as you roll forward with your work life, whether you work for somebody else or you decide to become an entrepreneur, because you're then going to know more than likely whatever it is you get into is going to be a global thing. It's going to have some kind of connection to other places in the world. So get that first. But I think that if you are a young person and that has it in your heart, I was talking to one earlier today that has it in her heart to deal with climate. Climate is one of the hottest issues you can deal with right now. That and
Yes.
energy. Energy kind of
Mhm.
ties into climate because of the emissions and the different, puffs of black smoke that come up and everything. So it's environmental. So anything in those areas, I'm hearing tons about all over the place.
Excellent.
So I'd say if you've got some words to say about that, if you have some interest in that spoken word art I talked about earlier, that is like a
Yes.
precursor to you being a public speaker. So when you can get yourself out there a little bit for something
Mhm.
small, not a 15 to 20 minute speaking engagement, but a 3 minute, like a
Yeah.
3 minute presentation, that's awesome. If you are, of age to where you can be on LinkedIn, do that. If you are of age where your parents are cool with you having a blog or YouTube videos, I mean, my youngest one, that 13, that we've been working with, had a YouTube video out, 2 or 3 out when she was 13 years old. So, and she was instructional. She wanted to talk about things that she knew something about. So I would say, find your voice wherever it may be. Is it on video? Is it just spoken word? Is it writing articles? You can write articles for your local paper. You can probably find a blog that will accept your articles and your viewpoints. Lots of organizations out there that would help support you in whatever way that you want to have your voice, that are already, put together. I am a governing member of the board called Youth Gather, YOUTH Gather, and it is international. Lots of diplomats on that board. I'm probably the only one, I think I told you, Elaine, that doesn't have an HE or, Her Excellency or doctor or something like that in front of her name. But we are all the time looking for leaders, potential leaders that might step up and help us spread the word of what we want to do. And we have country heads. So that would be coordinators in different countries. So if you have an interest in that, then, I'll get Elaine to connect us. I would say and this goes to a tip or something or two, and I'm just going to leave it at this. One of the things I told the gal this morning to do, and I've told it to every mentee that I've ever mentored, is I don't care how old you are, you start a resume now. I don't care if you have 3 things to put on it. You start it now, and then you start building, and you can take off things as you mature and get, better things to put on there. But I don't care if it's cheerleading. I don't care if it's a sport that you excel in. I don't care if you're, president of the art club at high school or the drama club. You have things to put on there. The girl that I was talking to earlier, I don't think realized that she could break down some of the things that she had going on. She was in a lot of different clubs, and I talked to her about some of the things that she'd been doing. I said, boom, experience, boom, skill. I said, you need to have all those on. It's better to be able to take away later than it is to try to reinvent that or figure it out as you're going forward. I think the first gal I worked with as a personal mentor-mentee relationship here locally, I think she had some middle school stuff on hers. And I said, I don't care, keep it there until we get ready to bump it off. Now you're in leadership at ROTC. Yeah, military. She wanted to go into the military, and she was with ROTC. And I said, now you've got some other things now that you can put on. So she's getting ready to graduate now, and she's heading into military school, but she had all that. I always tell people, don't wait until you have to use a resume to build it, because it's a booger to have to do. I'm sorry, I'm just going to put it that way. It is painful. It is miserable to have to put that together in 2 or 3 days. When you've had it all along and you're thinking like that, oh, I got to add this to my resume. Oh, I got to add this to my resume. Then you've got some meat to work with. You have something to play with. So I'd say
I just also want to say that if there's someone who's listening who says, well, I like that idea, but I don't know how to do a resume. There are so many examples on the internet right now. Yes. So you can Google them. And not only that, but I think if you mention to adults around you that you're interested in starting one, they will be glad to look at it. Check with your teachers, your parents, people at church, people in the community. Yes. If they know this is what you want to do, you search on the internet, you can look for examples and then have someone take a look at it for you. Yeah. But that's great.
Somebody will send you a copy of theirs, and then you can at least have a format.
That's right.
to go to. But and that leads into the next one. Mentor. When you are lucky enough to get a mentor, then that means at some point down the road that you need to pay it forward. You need to become one. But always look around you. You don't have to call them your mentor, but you're going to find there's going to be at least 1 or 2 around you that have been giving you advice or helping you along the way. And listen to them, and then engage with them more often, because if they've been giving you some pearls of wisdom at least once or twice, they've got more to give you. They've got more to share. Right. And just diversify your network. Go ahead and start thinking about other people that you might want to have in your network from an adult standpoint, in career paths that interest you. Easy to find if you're on LinkedIn. If you're not, then that's, again, just like Elaine said, is to ask other adults to help you find somebody that's in your career path that you might want to talk to. It's really good. And if you get to interview them for like your blog or whatever, it gives you a reason, instead of, hey, I just want to talk to you. It gives you a reason to go to them and say, hey, I'd like to interview you for my blog. Would you mind? And then you get to ask them all the questions you'd want to know anyway.
There you go.
Yeah,
it's a free pass.
Yeah.
So can you just make sure that we know how to find you? You have a lot of great resources. So let's break that down so it's really clear to everyone.
www.frontrunnersinnovate.com is the main site. And anybody that's looking at this that wants to connect with me directly can do so. Mary@marykurek.com. And that's the last name is KUREK.com. So that's my email address. But we will be putting up some other, resources on the site right now. So through the web, you can do the contact button on the website too. So.
Excellent. Well, you are doing wonderful work, as I stated before, and I'm sure all of our listeners now understand why I stress that she's impacting the lives of adults and teens globally around the world. So Mary is a very powerful woman. I appreciate the fact that she took the time to be with us today. Thank you all for listening. This is our Empower Teen Self-Esteem podcast. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. Please follow Kids More Sugar on social media. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel to show that you support this content. And you can visit our website at kidsmoresugar.com to learn more about our free online kids program. Thank you.